What up, everybody?
Hi guys, it's me again, and it's about 7 in Hi guys, it's me again, and it's about 7 in the morning, and I figured that I'd record a video before I go to bed. And today, the topic we're going to be talking about is mining canary problems in video games. Now, before I explain what the topic is and how it relates to games, I of course have to explain the metaphor. What is a mining canary? Well, back in the good days, back in the old days, whenever people used to have to work in mines, coal mines, etc., they would go down the mine and they would bring with them a canary or some form of bird. And this bird, they would have it in a little cage, and whenever the bird died or the bird started acting weird or crazy, they would know that because the bird's lungs are smaller, the poisonous
Right, I know what he's talking about. That shit is true. It's interesting, but I'm interested to see how he's going to relate it to video games.
gases below them would affect the bird negatively before they were able to be affected as humans, because they obviously, people have larger lungs than a bird does. So the bird dies, oh shit, I don't want to go down there, there's poisonous gases. So how does this relate to video games? Well, this is obviously a premonition. This is obviously an ominous sign. So I think that mining canary problems in video games are whenever a specific change or a specific thing in a video game is basically a if you could distill all of the problems down to any one thing, it would probably be this one thing. And I think
You can never do that. There's so many problems that you could name if you're trying to name off the root of all problems with video games. It's not one thing. It's a ton of things.
that the best way for me to do this is to use a couple of examples. Now, one example now, thankfully, is outdated, but the second example, unfortunately, is not. First example I'm going to use is the Diablo 4 change
I bet New World is going to be one of the examples.
from making the leave instance timer 5 seconds instead of 3 seconds. They increased the timer because
Right.
of some stupid reasoning.
People were fucking mad about that shit.
And I viewed this as a mining canary problem. This is a problem that indicates a key core massive disconnect between the developers and the players. And every once in a while, you'll see a developer make a change that is so out there, so
That makes sense, really. Just fixing something, just like okay, so he's pretty much talking about the fucking guy in those commercials, the goddamn the fucking what? Not the Sham Wow guy, but with the tape and stuff where he slaps it on the water thing. Flex Seal. The fucking Flex Seal guy slaps some tape on that bitch, fits it for a second, just enough to make it work, and then it fucking gets old again. I think I know it. That's what he's talking about, right? The fucking Flex Seal guy. He's talking about the Flex Seal of video games.
outrageous, so ridiculous,
Or the little canary.
that it just kind of encapsulates the entire animosity that they might have with the community, or the entire disconnect that they have with the community. And I'd actually be curious, guys, after I put this second example, if you have any examples like this in your own games, maybe examples that I haven't thought of. The second example is going to be in Dragonflight, World of Warcraft. And
So he didn't use that one. Okay.
back in the beta, or sorry, not the beta, the pre-expansion patch for the Drakthir, which are going to be the new race, they had a racial ability where they could fly around and effectively use dragon riding anywhere in the Eastern Kingdoms or anywhere in Kalimdor. And Blizzard thought, in all of their brilliance, they thought that they were going to nerf this and change it. That way, everybody didn't start rolling Drakthir to farm old world dungeons. I'm not kidding. That's actually what their logic was. And it is still nerfed to this day. It was an ability called Soar. And also, now with the new patch, it's been announced that, of course,
Kind of like how New World fucking just wiped an entire area from the game, from the realm. But they're saying that on season 3, apparently, they're going to replace it with a new area. So they're going to replace what they took away with a new area. So we'll see how that goes. But whatever, we'll see. Hopefully the new area they put in there is better uh, than the one they took away.
Course, they're actually going to be allowing everybody to use the dragon riding mounts in the old world. So not only is this change stupid fundamentally, but it's also been completely outdated. So it's one of the things where, and again, like as soon as the developer explains what their perspective is and why they think this is a problem, everybody that is watching and that actually plays the video game realizes that they don't. So this is a big problem, and I think that also it's one of the things where like there are sometimes whenever it will seemingly be like a very small change, like, oh, this is like not really a big deal, like why does this really matter? And it doesn't really matter, but I think in these mining canary type problems it indicates a larger disconnect. So for example, if you're charting a course across the ocean, okay, and you're 1 degree off, by the time
Mm-hmm.
you get to the other side of the ocean, you're going to be miles away from where you started, even if you were 1 degree
Right.
on the other side. And I think this is kind of what happens is that the development of games becomes so disconnected from the player base of games that changes are made and put into a game that I think doesn't really serve anybody and goes to just show the player base that the developers don't really understand what the core gameplay loop of the game really is. And I think a lot of these types of things happen, especially in live.
I see that, and I think that's why New World developers are starting to pay attention to the community of that game through Discord, actually, and they take questions from community members and address them on a little podcast thing that they do. I think that some developers are starting to pay more attention to what the community wants. But yeah, that has been a problem with a disconnect between communities and developers. I know that's true.
Service games, and we're talking about like obviously, I use Diablo 4 and World of Warcraft as an example, but Destiny, PUBG, Fortnite, Valorant, League of Legends, any of these games are all live service games. I think that they become more evident, and the problem really with these live service games and why they have more of these mining canary problems and why it's more common for them to happen is because I do think in live service games there is a different standard of success whenever you're talking about these types of games. Because these games are not necessarily measured in terms of did the player complete the game, they're measured in how many hours did the player complete, how many hours did it take for the player to complete the game, and also, how many times did they spend money on the game, how long did they put into the game, how many hours. Blizzard calls it, monthly active user, player retention. Everything is all about keeping you on that hamster wheel as long as possible. And that's why I think that you see
Yeah,
a lot of these changes be put into these games that will artificially increase the amount of time that a game takes in order for it to be finished or for you to achieve a task. And I think that you can contrast this with something like Elden Ring, for example. Elden Ring, there are rare items in Elden Ring. However, a rare item in Elden Ring is not equivalent to a rare item in many, many other games. And not to mention the fact that you can just mod the game and give yourself any item you want, not to mention items that don't even exist, like with mods, like Convergence, etc. The point is that it is not important for the developers of that game, or Tears of the Kingdom for that matter, it is not important for them to make you waste your time because they've already got your fucking money, number one. So if you play through the game and you beat the game, this doesn't mean that you are no longer interfacing with their battle pass system. You're no longer interfacing with their store system. And this creates a profit incentive for developers to make things take longer than usual, and it also creates a profit incentive for developers to make things be more frustrating and just in general more difficult to achieve. And I guess, these are all
because some developers think difficult equals fun or challenging equals fun, so they make shit hard. Like unnecessarily hard.
All other effectively ways of saying take longer to achieve. So I think that really you see a lot of these mining canary problems with live service games, and I think that's really the reason is that there is a success metric that is attached to a lot of live service games, especially that are done by larger companies, that is primarily focused around playtime, and it is primarily focused around a metric that is a quantitative value, which is a lot of times kind of a problem because I think quantitative analysis of games is, of course, very important, and it should be a foundation for making decisions. But without having the creative intuition to understand the qualitative value of each different thing that's added into the game, then you're not able to really put all the pieces together and understand the full vision of wow, players really like this system. Well, yeah, no shit, they like the system. It's because you make them do it. And I think that Renown is probably going to turn into one of those things in Season 2 of Diablo 4. I played through a little bit of Season 1.
Yeah, that's true. There is some people that will play through stuff just to get to the next thing, even if they don't like what's going on at the time, which is fucking crazy to me because I would just stop playing something if I didn't like a certain part of it, like that.
I've tried to give the game a little bit more of a second or, I don't know, what, a 50th chance, something like that. It's like a toxic ex girlfriend at this.
But then it's those types of people. They're usually people that are like, what is it, fanboys like of a certain thing, you know, and that shit's ridiculous,
And anyway, trying to,
cringy as
because I thought
fuck.
like the campfire went okay, and so it's like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. But anyway, one thing that I've noticed is that nobody really likes farming renown, and I don't think that I'll really be playing season 2 if I have to farm renown again. And I think that also a lot of players are very willing to compromise with the developer, and I think this is a bad thing. And the reason why I think that it's a bad thing is that why can't we just have fun all the time? And before you go and say, okay, well, you could just start at level 100 and do all this other stuff, nobody really has fun doing Renown, right? And so, like, why not just cut that out and let people just play the game without Renown? Like, PoE doesn't have Renown. PoE has other things that are semi annoying, but not anywhere near as annoying as Renown. And, Diablo 3, I'm pretty sure, didn't have Renown either. So it's not like you need Renown for any RPG to work or to function. But for some reason, Blizzard is dead set on not allowing you to remove it. And I think that if it continues in season 2, I will probably classify it as one of those mining canary problems that it is an indication of the entirety of the disconnect between Blizzard and the player base. That they value metrics such as time played that you obviously farm a lot of whenever you convince a player that they have to farm renown because it's effectively like if you want to be good at the game, you want to have 20 extra Paragon points, obviously. So it's like 50 extra percent damage in some cases, especially if you can hit an extra yellow node. The point is that, of course, obviously a lot of people are going to want to do that, and then you pump up those playtime numbers by artificially increasing the amount of time that they would interface with the game by creating pointless hurdles for them to jump over. And I think that also, players are more than willing to go through, I think, some level of annoyance. And I think that in general, as a community, I don't think that we should really do that as much.
That's what I just said that people are definitely willing to put up with shit that they don't like just to get to the next thing. And that I agree with Asmongold. That shit is ridiculous. It is ridiculous to compromise with the companies. Like, look at New World. You know why they started paying attention to the players and fixing up the game and making it, decent, was because the community bullied them into fucking listening and making changes because you know, the game sucked when it was first released. It was killing graphics cards. People were asking for refunds. So, it is what it is. But people don't do that with every game, though. That is a problem. That is a bad thing. People should do that with every game. We need to have that kind of energy towards all the developers that try to pull bullshit over dangerous. No.
And it's not about like, hey fellas, you're getting older, right? This isn't a fucking, erectile dysfunction ad. But the truth is that a lot of people don't want to invest, 20 extra. They don't want to have a minus 20 on the hours of their life just because a video game has a pointless hoop for you to jump through in order to inflate metrics for a shareholder report. And I think the truth is that if enough players say no, then the company will say yes, and they'll do what the players want. And that's just the beauty of a free market. And I really hope more people understand that, and I hope more people stop compromising with allowing their time to be wasted with useless mechanics and useless design. And I think understanding what a mining canary problem is with a video game and being able to identify what it is, and this, I think especially the best types of problems like this are the ones that are nerfs to things that nobody cares about or changes to things that just simply, like, a crafting time of something is increased by like a tremendous amount and it's a single player game or something like that. Those types of things are very good indicators of where the developer's mind is at, and oftentimes it's not in the same place as the player. It's been an idea that I've thought about a lot recently.
Right? Like making crafting incredibly hard in New World, that's ridiculous. They've made crafting a pain in the ass. And honestly, I think they need to do something about that. So, um, hopefully, hopefully, maybe I can make a post in the Discord community, and maybe it'll get picked up by the developers to look at and just be like, look, crafting fucking sucks right now. New World kind of getting it on point with everything else, but fuck, they need to step it up with that damn crafting because it is tedious as fuck and difficult and hard. It doesn't always equal fun. Just because it pisses people off, it doesn't always equal fun. And it's not going to hold the retention rate if they have to keep doing something over and over and over again. Eventually, I'm going to quit. Just saying.
And I've been seeing it a lot more in games, and I've always kind of had like an idea of this, but I never really, came up with a term for it. So I figured I'd make this video and talk about it with you guys, see kind of how other people have to think about it, what you guys think, examples and games that you've played, and am I the only one who's crazy here, or has this been a thing for quite a while? And I think it's actually quite insightful whenever you kind of identify it as an idea and then look at things through that lens. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys and talk about it, have a little conversation, and yeah. Anyway, be curious to hear other people's examples and see if it's as much of a common thing in other games as it is seemingly in Blizzard games. So that's about it. Thanks for watching. Peace.